When it was released around the world in arcades in 1997, Sega's brand new light gun shooter, The House of the Dead, set the arcade world on fire. With terrifying monster designs, eye-melting visual effects, and really gnarly looking gore effects, the game was an instant hit, and Sega knew that they had created something really special. As time passed, 3 sequels were given the green light, and despite there being 4 games in the series with different narrative tones and visual styles that ran on completely different arcade hardware, every game had the following in common. They were all made by a team of Japanese people who aimed to appeal to a Japanese audience specifically. Enter Kuju Entertainment, a British studio formed by Ian Braverstock and Jonathan Knuth. Kuju has been releasing games since 1998, and after pitching a brand new Jet Set Radio title to Sega in 2006 for Nintendo's Wii console, they were met with a very disappointing response from Sega, as they almost immediately turned Kuju's idea down. While Sega wasn't interested in bringing a new Jet Set Radio game to life with Kuju, they still wanted to work with the promising British studio, and after some brainstorming, both Sega and Kuju decided on which series they'd like to develop a new installment for. With heavy influences from exploitation films, zombie media, and offensive humor, Sega and Kuju developed one of the greatest games that I've ever played. Get ready, because we're about to go knee-deep into the complete history of what I consider to be the greatest light gun shooter of all time. Released in February 2009, The House of the Dead Overkill is a total stylistic departure not just from other games in the series, but from other video games in general. With a really wicked presentation style heavily inspired by drive-in theaters and their often low-budget showings, Overkill is, to this day, still an extremely unique game, and I honestly think it's beautiful in every sense of the word. I'll be covering Overkill's narrative, gameplay, development, reception, and legacy in great detail, and to prepare for this video properly, I managed to get in contact with Anthony Aroya, the voice actor of Detective Isaac Washington, one of the game's protagonists. Anthony told me things about Overkill that have never been made public before, so I recommend sticking around to hear how he got involved with the project and what recording dialogue for the game was like. Now, before we get into House of the Dead Overkill itself, we need to understand not only what the word Grindhouse means, but also what an exploitation film is, so get ready.
We have a little entertainment planned for you today. I am Sadhu, master of the theater of the macabre. Tonight, we begin with...
Let's learn about not only what a grindhouse cinema is, but also what an exploitation film is. For starters, the term grindhouse, according to film historian and author David Church in his book Grindhouse Nostalgia, found its origins in a 1923 issue of Variety magazine, and it was in relation to carnival employees yelling, or grinding, at nearby people to walk over and enter. It can also be traced back to what was known as the grind policy. This phrase refers to a process where cinema owners would play movies non-stop for a period of 24 hours so that lots of people could come and watch, generating lots of profit in the process. For one cheap ticket, audiences could stay and watch many films in a single setting if they had the patience required to do so. In relation to Overkill specifically, the term grindhouse is spoken with its 1970s meaning, where it refers to a cinema usually in a place with a really low socioeconomic status that would show frequent low-budget B-movies. Church mentions 3 points that cinemas had to adhere to in order to be accurately labeled as grindhouse. Shows a variety of films in continuous succession, low admission fees, and films screened are frequently of poor quality or low artistic merit. Due to their locations, grindhouse cinemas were commonly associated with lower-class audiences, and they quickly developed a very negative reputation, and it doesn't sound very exciting going to one, to be honest. You'd have to go into a really bad part of town to enter a cinema that was filled with not only shady people but also rats, and then you'd sit there for hours watching horrible movies. If you don't believe me about the rats, listen to iconic filmmaker Quentin Tarantino, whose works are heavily inspired by Grindhouse cinema, describe his experiences of going to ghetto theaters when he was a child in a 2003 episode of Late Night with Conan O'Brien, and how these experiences inspired the premiere for Kill Bill Volume 1.
But you were not happy. You were dissatisfied with the premiere.
Yeah, I was
of the
a little
movie.
dissatisfied with the premiere, yeah. Well, the reason is because this is a Grindhouse movie, all right? It was inspired by drive-ins and all the ghetto theaters that I went to see, all the kung fu films and blaxploitation movies and spaghetti westerns when I was growing up. And so we had the premiere. It was a beautiful theater, I think one of the best theaters in the world, the Grauman's Chinese Theater.
Which is in Los Angeles.
It's in Los Angeles, and it's a landmark, it's a legend in its own time, all right? But it is rather high class.
Right.
All right. And the same thing with the premiere, where the celebrities show up and they got to go through the whole red carpet, and everything kind of takes it away from the Grindhouse experience. So I had an idea, I had a thought. How can I get this premiere to get real ghetto? I was having different thoughts of how can I bring this down to like the Carson twin level, all right, where I grew up going to see movies. And I thought, well, wait a minute. One of the things I could do is I could let loose a bunch of rats in the theater. All right, so as people were watching it, just like what happens in a ghetto theater, when I was watching old kung fu movies in the 70s, all of a sudden something runs across your shoe, all right? And all of a sudden you get a little friend, behind your chair, okay? That would make it ghetto, that'd make it...
So, we now know that Grindhouse cinemas were low-budget theaters that were usually in poor areas. They showed films that had little to no artistic merit, and they constantly showed films back to back to back to back to back. Now, let's move on to what an exploitation film is. By the way, I'll be using the books Hollywood v. Hardcore, How the Struggle Over Censorship Saved the Modern Film Industry by John Lewis, Sleazemania, Eurotrash and High Art, The Place of European Art Films in American Low Culture by Joan Hawkins, Resisting Refinement, The Exploitation Film and Self-Censorship by Eric Schaefer, and Golden Horrors, an illustrated critical filmography of terror cinema by Brian Sen as my sources. Exploitation films often include themes such as suggestive or explicit sex, sensational violence, drug use, nudity, gore, destruction, rebellion, mayhem, and the bizarre. Such films were first seen in their modern form in the early 1920s, but they were popularized in the 60s and 70s with the general relaxing of censorship in cinematic taboos in the US and Europe. Also, it's important that I mention the Motion Picture Production Code, also known as the Hays Code after Will Hays, the then president of the Motion Picture Producers and Distributors of America. After a series of really big controversies in the 1920s, Hollywood was under intense scrutiny from both political and religious organizations, and politicians' desire to censor films across the country was growing. Hays wanted to clean up Hollywood's negative reputation, so he created the aforementioned Hays Code, a list of self-censorship rules that the major film studios had to follow. There were two categories of the Hays Code: don'ts and be carefuls. Don'ts refer to things that could not be portrayed for any reason, and some of these were profanity, nudity, white slavery, and miscegenation, the marriage of people from different races. Some of the be carefuls included arson, religious ceremonies, the use of firearms, and animal cruelty. But how do any of these relate to exploitation films in Grindhouse cinemas? Many young and independent filmmakers at the time felt that the Hays Code was severely limiting their creative output, and they weren't able to truly express themselves as a result. In retaliation, many low-budget independent theaters without ties to the big studios began screening these young independent filmmakers' films, and they contained graphic imagery and subject matter. Despite being made to disgust and offend, audiences found themselves really attracted to these films, as the filmmakers grabbed social taboos by the neck and dragged them to the forefront of the silver screen. Exploitation is loosely defined and arguably has as much to do with the viewer's perception of the film as with the film's actual content. Titillating material and artistic content can often coexist, as demonstrated by the fact that art films that failed to pass the Hays Code were often shown in the same grindhouses as exploitation films. Many films recognized as classics contain levels of sex, violence, and shock typically associated with exploitation films. Examples include Stanley Kubrick's A Clockwork Orange, Todd Browning's Freaks, and Roman Polanski's Repulsion. There are also many types of exploitation film genres, including blaxploitation, carsploitation, Nazi-sploitation, and spaghetti westerns, just to name a few. In relation to Overkill specifically, I'd say that it obviously takes heavy inspiration from the buddy cop and zombie movies of yesteryear. Now that we're familiar with the terms grindhouse and exploitation film, let's go back to Overkill and examine the game's narrative.
You have 15 seconds before we show scenes from the most terrifying, horrifying motion picture of all time. If you have a heart condition, cover your eyes. If you are with a young and impressionable child, please leave this auditorium.
As the House of the Dead Overkill is a pretty short game, clocking in at around 4 to 5 hours on your first playthrough, its narrative is short and sweet, and there are only 7 levels in the whole game. With themes of revenge, cruelty against the disabled, and even incest, what Overkill lacks in game length, it more than makes up for in shock value.
What's up, motherfucker?
They met as adversaries.
What the fuck was that for?
A monster made them allies.
Yep, just like all good stories, it begins with not only profanity, but also assault. Meet Agent G and Detective Isaac Washington, our heroes.
Call him only G. His identity, a mystery.
You ever gonna tell anyone what that fucking G stands for?
No. A playboy cop. Isaac Washington. Make him mad, and he'll rip your balls off.
They've been assigned together to investigate a series of mysterious disappearances in Louisiana, and the man thought to be behind all these is the infamous crime lord Papa Caesar.
Tonight, these unlikely allies will confront terror most foul in the blood-soaked halls of Papa's Palace of Pain. Be a courteous guest.
By tomorrow morning, I'll have my motherfucking revenge. Papa Caesar will be dead.
If we don't stop this mutant outbreak by tomorrow morning, we'll all be dead.
Because your first visit will be your last. Papa's Palace of Pain. Rated X.
The very first level, Papa's Palace of Pain, begins with a pair going into Papa Caesar's plantation through the front door, before clearing out the many rooms inside this massive house. Whether they're indoors or out on the balcony, Agent G and Washington seem to find themselves constantly getting attacked by mutants, but they know exactly what to do. Eventually, the pair find themselves on the top floor of the house, and after being attacked by even more mutants, they clear out the upper area, and they proceed to take a very conveniently placed elevator down. After recovering from the crash, the pair move throughout the basement area, but not before coming across a very gruesome sight.
Who taught these guys table manners?
Mother, these guys ain't human. I never seen this kind of crazy shit before.
All right, so what's the game plan? You restrain the subject, and I'll lead an interrogation?
Fuck that, Columbo. Shoot to me.
After rescuing an unfortunate soul lost in the darkness below, Agent G and Washington come face to face with the man behind all this depravity.
A sadistic crime lord, master of a perverse science.
My darling Jasper, do you have a present for me?
They call him Caesar.
Our test subject at the hospital is showing progress. You've done very well, my boy. We shall celebrate this tonight with takeout Chinese.
A brilliant mind with a broken body.
You've gone too far, Papa Caesar.
His talents turn to evil to protect the sister who raised him.
You impotent cripple. Think of your sister before threatening, Papa Caesar. Next time you speak, turn the volume to 0. Fucking cabbage.
Nobody threatens Varla.
The ultimate sacrifice.
Freeze, bitches!
Because of the shocking nature of the following scenes, they are definitely not recommended for the squeamish or the easily offended.
After Jasper turns into a flying monster, the pair have no choice but to gun him down, and after having a really heated argument, they're introduced to a very important character who I definitely didn't have a crush on as a kid.
Betrayed.
Tell my sister I love her.
Fuck! How do you say that shit without moving your lips? Gee, you see this shit?
An act of mercy.
It hurts so much.
I can help ease the pain.
No, you can fucking not. Shoot the motherfucker.
Don't you do tact? That's what I am going to fucking do. You know.
Shut the fuck up and shoot. Shit.
Happy now, fuckwit?
You fucking bastards! You killed my brother!
You're his sister?
You're his sister?
Varla Guns, a doting sibling to a crippled brother, forced into a life of vice. Now she's filled with a primal hunger for revenge. Mankind.
With the first level completed, Agent G and Washington go to leave, while Vala is mourning the loss of her brother.
You died trying to stop Caesar. I won't rest until I've shot his fucking guts over half the county.
Least of all, Tim.
Later that night, the pair find themselves in what's considered to be one of the worst places to go during an outbreak, a hospital. I wonder who Papa Caesar is talking to on the phone. Their second adventure, Ballistic Trauma, has just begun, and things are about to get a whole lot crazier from here on out. Starting off in the higher floors of the hospital, Agent G and Washington fight new types of mutants like infected nurses, patients, and doctors.
Oh man, I got a fever.
After taking another elevator down, they manage to fight their way across a room filled with mutants, and they eventually decide to leap out the window for some reason. Don't know why they couldn't have just vaulted over normally. Not even the great outdoors can save them, however, as there are mutants who are scaling the building in an attempt to devour our heroes. After surviving this plane crash, Agent G and Washington then go throughout the rest of the top floor, eventually finding themselves in a morgue.
I'm alive! I'm motherfucking still alive!
Yeah, just my luck.
Going through yet another hallway, the pair find themselves in an operating theater, where a brand new horror awaits them.
Ma'am? Ma'am, are you okay?
Move aside, diaper shit! Let a man handle this! Motherfucker!
This is the Screamer, and despite looking pretty spooky, she's not that hard to take down. After doing this, our heroes come across a very peculiar situation.
Are you gonna answer that?
That's not my phone.
An unexpected complication.
The bitch is ringing! No motherfucking way, man. I manicured only yesterday.
You manicured?
What if I fucking do? These ain't going inside that bitch. No finger fucking way.
Hello?
Who could be behind such depravity?
It's for you.
Yo.
Isaac, darling.
Papa strikes again.
As you well know, Isaac, I enjoy pain. It's like a good Chinese dinner, you know, with the sweet and the sour. Expanding on that analogy, I will smile with delight. That's the sweet. As you scream for your fucking life. Of course, that's the sour. Ciao.
Mad motherfucker. Shit! The place is wired to blow!
We're not dead yet, detective.
Let's get the fuck out of here!
A howling hellcat humping a hot steel hog.
Hey you! Crockett Tubbs! Jump on!
A seductive she-devil leading a pair of pigs on a roaring rampage of revenge.
With our three protagonists reunited once again, they take a ride through a secluded part of town, but not before coming across a bump in the road.
Eyes on the road, father!
Looks like something was eating him alive. More mutants?
No shit, Sherlock.
If you're both finished admiring each other's dicks, can I remind you we have a fucking mass-murdering psychopath son of a bitch to catch?
You wait there, woman. Agent Gwendolyn and me are gonna check this shit out.
Fuck you!
Motherfucker! What does a brother have to do to pacify a bitch? I'm telling you, G, I've tried my best with her. God be my witness. I have shown respect, charm, understanding, but that is the last fucking straw.
After Washington's very powerful speech, we begin the third level, Carney.
Carney, 1,000 tiny fingers clawing at your spine.
Agent G and Washington begin by entering the carnival, and they soon find not only the regular mutants they've seen up until this point already, but also new kinds of mutants too. After hopping over a big fence and witnessing a prison truck crash and burn right in front of them, they're confronted with a brand new type of mutant, the Fury.
There ain't nothing good about this whole motherfucking situation.
After passing by the carnival attractions, our heroes find themselves stuck in a pretty long ghost train ride.
Are you holding my hand?
Yes.
I ain't your mama. Get the fuck off of me.
After this ride comes to a very unfortunate end, Agent G and Washington travel through another part of the carnival grounds until the ride in the distance explodes and nearly ends their adventure prematurely. Traveling to the nearby Big Top, our heroes decide to see what's going on there.
Hey, check out these signs.
You didn't tell me your family was in town, Agent. This asshole's mine! Motherfuck!
You fucking disgust me, Nigel!
This guy is called Nigel and Sebastian, and after pumping Sebastian, the stomach tumor guy full of lead, we're presented with one of the funniest cutscenes in video game history. But this scene also gives us a bit of insight into Washington's backstory.
Music, man, motor, isolated from the outside world. Music making you nod your head with every beat while the outside's just passing you by. You know where I'm coming from?
If I did, that's not the type of shit I share.
Well, how do you mean?
A brother cannot be asked to relay his personal affiliation to his music before knowing he can trust that motherfucker. These things take time. Here I am teamed up with a partner I don't even fucking need, forced to sit in the motherfucking passenger seat, which I have not fucking done since I was a kid, while he goes all soft talking about his feelings for his motherfucking tunes. Shit. Just play your fucking music. What the fuck?
I was listening to that.
You fucking think because you scored us this fucking popsicle ride, you can play that shit?
Hey. That there is country western's finest.
You are one fucked up fuck. You know that? That's offensive shit you're playing me.
You ever thought of therapy?
What the fuck for?
All you do is get pissed off at and with just about anything and anyone. I'm attempting conversation here with you.
Conver-fucking-sation?
Yes, conver-motherfucking-sation. But you know what? I'm gonna shut up. You play your music, you play it your way, and I will just drive.
Can I drive?
No.
Can I have a lollipop?
Yes.
What funk? What funk got into you? Yeah.
After Agent G proves why he's the best driver who ever lived by speeding and crashing the ice cream truck almost immediately, all the major players in the story so far all come together. Agent G and Washington now find themselves on a massive train that's ripping through the night, and in typical House of the Dead fashion, this location is also filled to the brim with mutants. Our heroes travel through all sorts of train compartments, and they even engage in some hardcore parkour along the way, but they eventually run into whatever this thing is. After traversing through the train's kitchen area, the first mini-boss begins, and luckily, this is pretty short. Soon after, Agent G and Washington enter a really freaky-looking room where mutants are being kept in some sort of liquid containment chambers. Perhaps this is involved with Papa Caesar somehow? Anyway, after taking down the last mutant off the level, our heroes come one step closer to taking down Papa Caesar.
This is your driver speaking. I'm pleased to announce we're running ahead of schedule and we'll be reaching our final destination far, far sooner than expected. Choo-choo.
The boss for this level is the Crawler, and it's not really a hard fight. After this, Agent G and Washington are right on top of Caesar, but after Washington somehow damages the train by stomping on it really hard, the pair have no choice but to make a death-defying leap. Vala shows up and then finds the two in a very suggestive landing position, and they all try to figure out where Caesar could have gone after the train crashed.
Isaac's back. Here I am. You saw nothing. You hear?
Isaac, baby, my lips are sealed.
Hey, wake up, Sleeping Beauty.
Stop calling me Gwendolyn. Hi there. What happened?
You were having a fucking wet dream.
Where's Caesar? He was on the train, right?
He was up front driving.
Let's take a look.
Are you gonna help me up?
Be gentle, Isaac. You know that's how he likes.
No. Please, continue, my dear. Usually, I have to dial premium rate for this kind of entertainment.
Don't mind now, motherfucker.
Careful, Washington!
Isaac, it's not his dick he's pressing into my back.
Very astute, Miss Guns. Apparently, young Jasper wasn't the only genius in the family.
You bastard!
You truly are your father's son, Isaac. Like him before you have failed to apprehend. And while I may not have the satisfaction of ending your life, I will take some small comfort in knowing you have been denied your revenge once again.
Then it's true? You did kill my old man?
Miss Guns, if you'd be so kind, I have business to attend to at the county prison.
You dickheads better come rescue me, okay?
We'll find you, Varda!
You die tonight, Caesar!
Goodbye, Isaac.
Washington, I don't know what to say, man.
And don't say anything, dipshit! You heard where he's taking Varla. The quickest way to the prison from here is through that.
Lead the way, detective.
On to level 5 now, the Fetid Waters, and it involves Agent G in Washington traversing through a locale inspired by redneck zombie media. This level is also very dark, and not just in terms of tone too, the lighting is really low. Traveling through a rundown trailer park inspired area, Agent G and Washington take a boat ride across the bayou, and they eventually come across whatever this thing is supposed to be.
That is some repugnant shit there.
See if we can get a sample of that vial for forensics.
After entering a house that definitely isn't inspired by the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, our heroes dispose of every mutant who called this place home, and they even find a mutant in the toilet at the back.
We caught that motherfucker on the can!
I didn't realize that was a component of mutant behavior. This is going in my report.
You're mentioning a mutant taking a dump in your report?
Well, anything that could be exploited as a weakness.
After this, the next boss fight begins.
From the murky depths of mystery, it has come to maul. It has come to murder. It has come to feed. It came from the Fetid Waters.
Can you give us a fucking moment? Okay. Ready? 3, 2, 1, go!
My paper beats your rock.
Oh, fuck it! You have the right to remain fucking silent. You have the right to an attorney. Anything you say can and fucking will. You just made my fucking day.
This thing is called the Lobber, and the swamp is his domain. After shooting this Jabba the Hutt wannabe to death, the pair decide to head to the county jail, but they also have a serious moment before they head off.
Quit whining, you pussy! I got us here, didn't I? Fuck! You about to get all country and western on me again?
Isaac!
Careful! There's only so much of this shit a brother can take.
Look, I just want you to know, if it comes down to it, I won't stand in the way of you getting even with Caesar.
I'd like to see you fucking try.
I'm serious.
Look, I appreciate the fucking sentiment, but it's not needed. I do what I gotta do. I gotta get justice for my old man. And as I see it, you're with me 100%. And I appreciate that too. But we've been through shit. You don't need to go articulating every fucking thing. I know you got my back. That's enough. You dig me?
I love you too, man.
Right, that's fucking it.
The prison men?
Fucking lead the way, Montel.
Not only do Agent G and Washington come across a creepy new location, but they also come across a creepy new figure.
You two gentlemen smell like shit. I'm gonna do my very best not to base our relationship on this first impression. But first impressions count for a lot. So if I meet a couple of men who not only neglect the common decency to introduce themselves, but simply walk up to me smelling as shit, well, it's gonna take an effort for me to get to know them.
I'm sorry, sir. We just came from the swamp. I'm Agent G, AMS.
You're Warden Darling, right?
That's entirely accurate, Detective Washington. You see, I'm not the only individual whose reputation precedes them. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to piss. My dick's on fire. I've been on the road for at least 3/4 of an hour with a bladder full of steaming hot piss, slashing left and right with every turn of the road in a way that a bladder full of steaming piss tends to. Do excuse me.
Do you have any idea what happened here, sir?
Ah, shit. There you go, distracting me. Now I got it all down my left leg. I'm gonna look like I pissed myself. Imagine if I have to meet anybody besides yourselves today. They'd be inclined to think I was the sort of man who pisses himself. Now that'd be a poor first impression, indeed.
We ain't got time for this shit. With all due respect, what the fuck's happened here? Is it the mutants?
Mutants, you say? Can't say I have any idea what you're talking about, Detective. I got a call in the middle of the night. I got told there was trouble at my prison. I came down, and here I am. That's the map of the situation right there.
We're looking for someone. For a couple of people. A man and a woman.
Riding a motorcycle?
How the fuck you know that?
Well, there's a motorcycle dumped right over there. Looks like you gentlemen have your own affairs to deal with. I'll be heading inside to see what's what. If I see your friends, I'll be sure to let...
They're not our fucking friends. At least... Look, if you see them, don't let them go.
I'll be sure to do that, Detective.
We appreciate any assistance you can offer us, sir.
Call me Clement.
You coming, motherfucker?
Nice boys.
Now that every main character is at the jail, surely something big will happen later on, right? For now though, our heroes make their way through the parking lot before heading inside to where the prisoners are kept. Or would be kept if there wasn't, you know, a mutant outbreak happening at the moment. After making their way through the many floors of Bayou County Jail, Agent G and Washington eventually find themselves in the warden's office where they see Papa Caesar chasing after Varlo.
Varlo! And Papa fucking Caesar?
We've got to find a way down there.
No shit!
Making their way through the cafeteria, Agent G and Washington make their way through the rooftops where a very convenient attack helicopter lays waste to some mutants in the way. Making their way down to where they saw Varla and Caesar, one of the most important scenes in the whole game is about to take place.
What the motherfuck?
Boys, don't be so melodramatic. Put those guns away, take a seat, enjoy the show.
Sir, what's going on here?
You're behind...
That's right. I'm behind the whole thing. Me, I'm responsible for... Don't interrupt me, Detective. I have quite a lot to get through.
You murdering psycho! You're responsible for all of this? For all those dead freaks?
Well, I didn't kill your dad, Washington. Perhaps my esteemed colleague here has something to comment on that one.
Clement, what the fuck are you doing? This wasn't part of our deal. I got the compound refined for you.
Shut the fuck up. In fact, shut up permanently.
No!
Mother, meet Isaac Washington. He's a homicide detective, very good at his job. And this is his friend, Agent. I'm sorry, I didn't entirely catch your name.
Clement! Where's my medicine, Clement?
You don't need your medicine, Mother. Remember what I told you?
Where's my fucking medicine, you feckless peasant?
Let me give you some context here, boys. I love my mother. I bet you boys love your mothers too, and would do anything to keep them happy and healthy. Well, my mother is dying.
Clement! Don't ignore me!
And dying really quite rapidly. And unfortunately, there's only one way to fix that. See, the compound that's been turning my inmates and half this county into mindless mutants can be used to sustain life, in a manner of speaking.
She's got small tits! Don't use the one with small tits, Clement! I forbid it!
Calm down, Mother.
You're insane.
I'm just a very loving son.
I'm going to fucking puke.
Oops. Time for your treatment, Mother.
Wait!
I'd rather not.
Now that the legally mandated plot twist has taken place, the penultimate boss fight begins. Brutus is a massive beast of a mutant that's aim is to kill anything that stands before him, but he's still no match for our heroes. After pulling the switch, they descend below into the final level to rescue Vala and end this nightmare.
Our feature presentation, Jailhouse Judgment, will resume after these messages.
It's revealed in this level's opening cutscene that Agent G and Washington are now in a top-secret military bunker responsible for housing Formula X, a very deadly chemical developed with the purpose of turning regular people into soldiers who have superhuman strength. The Formula X project was a massive failure, and while the American government did try to cover it up, our heroes have walked right into it. This is it, the biggest challenge that Agent G and Washington have ever faced in their lives. Every single type of mutant that they've come across is present here, and they're not holding back. Eventually, they stumble into a room filled with nuclear warheads, so you know that this is serious business. After making their way through a computer room filled with mutated security officers, Agent G and Washington come face to face with the girl they've been chasing this whole time.
So, where's Varla?
She's right here, boys.
Varla? Are you okay?
Better than okay. I've never felt so turned on in my life.
Say what?
Don't worry, detective. Everybody will have their chance to have a go.
Nobody's having a go with anybody.
Stay behind me, Varla.
Grab your gun, not your dick.
Clement! Did I call for you? Go to your room.
Can't you just one time in your life show your son a little fucking gratitude? And try to act your age.
Don't you ever talk to your mother like that.
Sorry, Mommy.
That's better.
Oh my fucking...
What have you done?
I should think that's pretty self-explanatory. Your friend is in that jar over there.
She's alive.
Yeah, I told you this game was hardcore. Not only does Warden Darling have a heavily implied incestuous relationship with his mother, but he's gone as far as to put her brain into Vala's body so he can have an even more attractive version of her. With their guns drawn and their confidence higher than it's ever been, Agent G and Washington get ready to pummel the G and Washington have done it. They've defeated the biggest threat known to man.
We hadn't found these miniguns just lying around, we'd be fucking dead for sure.
I'm just glad Varla got the justice she deserved. So, what do you plan to do with your life now, Isaac?
Well, I figured as soon as I got home, I'd go pay my respects to my old man.
And then?
And then Washington's going to fucking Vegas, baby. She's still fucking alive, ain't she?
Appears that way.
You got anything clever to say?
I'm at somewhat of a loss.
Then let's just make this look fucking cool.
Mother is the final boss of Overkill, and our heroes have traded in their regular weapons for miniguns. The goal here is to shoot at Mother's weak spots while making sure you don't overheat the miniguns, because if you do, you are left open for a long time. After the final bullet is fired, the game is over, and what I consider to be the most important cutscene in the whole game plays out.
Alone.
I can't go on in a world without my mommy.
In a world that would never accept him.
You're fucking right there.
A cornered animal.
I advise you, don't. This is a dead man's switch.
With nothing to live for.
Kill me, and the self-destruct for the lab beneath us goes off. This whole prison will be leveled.
Then what do you want?
Sought only redemption.
I want to undo all the wrongs I have done. I want to return to the womb. Please, just this one last thing.
You fucking handle this freak show. I need to sit down.
When revenge seemed the only option.
You've broken 100 laws. You're responsible for the deaths of countless thousands. You threatened the safety of every man, woman, and child on this planet. And you put our friend's brain in a jar!
I have a lot to atone for.
By returning to the womb?
That's right.
A final noble act.
Give me that.
Thank you.
Was all that was needed.
Don't fucking thank him. Soon as we're in a helicopter out of here, I'm chucking that thing out the fucking window.
Then I can die happy. Goodbye, boys.
Did you not find this all slightly ironic?
Fucking ironic?
Yeah, ironic. You know, when something occurs after you...
I know what ironic means, motherfucker.
You see, you did it again. Throughout this whole episode, you've been motherfucking everything.
That's my thing. That's how I fucking speak.
Yeah, but there we were, face to face with a real motherfucker.
Huh?
Clement more than likely fucked his mother. And not once did you call him motherfucker. When indeed he was. Most probably a real motherfucker. So what does that tell you?
I don't fucking know.
It means you don't fucking mean what you fucking say. It's all shit.
Say what, motherfucker?
See, you're doing it fucking again. You like me. Deep down through all your fuckisms, you really like me. I'm the fucking nearest fucking thing you've ever had to a fucking friend.
Don't fucking do this to me, man. Wrong fucking place, wrong...
Go on, say it.
Say the fuck what?
Say you like me.
Get the fuck out of my space. Never repeat fucking talk of that shit again.
Or what?
I don't fucking know what. That's fucking what.
Okay, man, okay. You made progress here. You did good. When we're back home, I am going to get myself a car, play my country music, and if you want to ride back to where the fuck ever you live, you are motherfucking welcome.
Fuck you.
So that's a yes then.
Can I drive?
Yeah, fuck you.
Washington is washing off on you.
If you can hear me, I'd like you to know I think you're the most beautiful woman I've ever met.
Now that just ain't right.
I think if we've learned anything from today, it's that love ain't always right.
Hey, I love my old man. You saying that ain't right?
Well...
And your fiance saying that y'all there loved her brother.
I was just making an observation.
Frankly, Casanova, I'd be more worried about reading the past 12 hours as a damning fucking indictment of contemporary feminism.
Beg pardon?
I just think two dick-wielding cop cliches taking down a 100-foot birthing mother is a statement fairly limited in its interpretation.
I'm not sure you can read too much into that.
Not to mention, the strongest female role model in this whole affair ain't much more than a gherkin in a pickle jar.
Washington.
They had met as adversaries.
What the fuck is it?
They had fought as allies.
I love you, man.
Oh, shut the fuck up.
But to their enemies.
And you? One-way ticket to motherfucking Vegas, baby.
They were righteous motherfuckers.
Oh yeah, now that's how you end off a video game. But wait, before we move on, remember the cassette tape that Agent G picked up in the swamp? I wonder what happened to that.
Hello, Isaac. This is Caesar. We've never seen eye to eye, you and I. But I wanted you to be aware of some important things. I find myself burdened with an inexorable sense of moral duty, Isaac. And in the absence of a friend to confide in, I turn to you. You know Clement Darling, yes? The Cretan prison warden? It was he who originally discovered the mutant compound in a secret lab beneath its prison. Clement's ambitions are small-minded, Isaac, but he has friends, powerful friends. And they have had access to the compound for some time. You should know this so you can prepare, Isaac. So you can warn the right people while there's still time. And there's so little time. And one more thing, Isaac. Are you aware your father is still alive?
And turns a group of men into a band of bloodthirsty zombies ravaging a peaceful countryside. I drink your blood, will make your blood curdle.
You might be thinking, well, since Overkill is just a light gun shooter, you just aim, shoot, and reload, right? Believe it or not, but there's actually more to Overkill's gameplay formula than you might think. For starters, the basics of the gameplay include aiming the Wii remote at the screen and pressing the B button to shoot. You can press the A button or shake the remote off screen to reload for that arcade experience, and if you aren't reloading by shaking the remote, then I don't know what you're doing. Pressing select will throw a grenade if you have one, with this mechanic returning from the House of the Dead 4, and for the first time in the series, you can actually have multiple weapons during a single level. Before a level starts, you're presented with a weapon select screen where you can choose between a primary and a secondary weapon. While you only have the AMS handgun when you first start the game, you can purchase extra weapons with money you gain from completing a level. Speaking of weapons, there are 7 of them in the game, and they are the AMS handgun, shotgun, SMG, automatic shotgun, assault rifle, hand cannon, and a minigun. The first 2 games had handguns, the third had shotguns, and the fourth had SMGs, so having all of those weapons, plus more on top of that in this one game, is really cool. You can also press the 1 or 2 buttons on the Wii remote in a level to switch them out, and it's faster than reloading, so you can switch a weapon out to save yourself from taking damage if you're in a tight spot. The game also has a weapon upgrade system, where you can spend money you earn to upgrade weapon attributes like damage, reload speed, recoil, etc., and these upgrades make a big difference. A weapon that has no upgrades feels very different to the same weapon when it's only half upgraded or even fully upgraded, so investing in upgrades is essential. For example, an upgraded hand cannon feels like a weapon of mass destruction, as it can blow through any mutant instantly. And while you may think that this is like the best weapon of all time after hearing my description, we'll get into that later. The game also has 2 brand new mechanics, Slow Mofo and Evil Eye. The former is activated as you shoot these green DNA looking things, and they slow down time. Not only does this warp the audio and make it feel like you're in the Matrix, but it also makes shooting mutants easier, especially if they like to run around. Evil Eye is activated by aiming towards the sides of the screen, and it allows you to shift the camera in a certain direction. I really love this feature, as it allows you to easily take out enemies who happen to be crawling along the ground, and if you've missed a collectible that's just off screen, you can use Evil Eye to move the camera a bit and collect it. It makes the game feel more dynamic in my opinion, but if you're a light gun purist who wants a camera that's locked at all times, you can easily turn Evil Eye off in the options menu. Speaking of collectibles, they come in the form of golden brains. There are 10 of them in every level, and collecting them unlocks bonus items like concept art, character models, and behind the scenes photos of the developers. This is really cool, and as a bit of a side note, I miss when games had stuff like this, man. Like, seeing the people who helped bring this game to life is good fun, and I really appreciate that Overkill has something like this. In addition to all the mechanics that I've mentioned so far, Overkill also has scoring and combo systems. Just like the other House of the Dead games, as you take out mutants, you gain points. Simple, right? You gain more points for a headshot, and if you keep going without missing a shot, you gain a combo multiplier. If you get 5 kills in a row, you reach Extreme Violence, which gives you 100 bonus points per kill. If you get 10 in a row, you reach Hardcore Violence, which gives you 200 bonus points. If you're a true gamer and you manage to get 15 in a row, you reach Ultra Violence, and there's a bonus of 300 points. If you're the best light gun shooter in the world and you manage to get 20 in a row, you get Psychotic, which gives you 500 bonus points. But if you're from the good old US of A, then you achieve a Gorgasm, yes it's really called that, and you get a bonus of 1000 points per kill, and the American flag also appears and starts waving. Maintaining a Gorgasm for as long as possible is key to getting a really high score, and I've thought of 2 ways you can go about playing this game. If you don't care about getting a high score or an accurate firing rate, then go with weapons that can fire really fast like the SMG or assault rifle. You can just hold down the trigger and go to town with these bad boys for as long as you want, so they're pretty good for that kind of gameplay style. If you actually want a high score, for example, then you'd want to go with a weapon that can annihilate any mutant that stands in your way with a single pull of the trigger. Yep, it's time to talk about the automatic shotgun. If you don't know, a fully upgraded automatic shotgun is easily the best weapon in the whole game, and I would argue that when you unlock and upgrade it fully, you never need to use any other weapon ever again. You can one-shot any mutant in the game by shooting them anywhere, and since you never have to shoot multiple times at one mutant and risk missing a shot, you can easily get high scores without even trying. This weapon is so good to the point where you can absolutely shred it through the game's boss fights, and if you're like me and dual-wield them with 2 Wii remotes, you just end up becoming an unstoppable death machine. If you're looking for more of a challenge, however, then after you finish story mode, try out Director's Cut mode. This makes the levels longer by adding in new areas, spawning in more mutants, and adding more collectibles for you to uncover. For example, Papa's Palace of Pain in regular mode opens with Agent G and Washington going through the front door from the very beginning, but in Director's Cut mode, they begin the level by walking through the garden first. What I love about Director's Cut mode the most is that these new areas don't feel tacked on at all. This isn't just a half-assed mode that Overkill's developers threw in at the last minute for something cute and extra. If you ever get the chance, I recommend playing Overkill on Director's Cut mode to experience all the new areas and enemy patterns. Speaking of enemies, Overkill has some really nice enemy variety in both gameplay and appearance. We've got regular male and female mutants, doctors, nurses, clowns, fat mutants, birds, and even bats, just to name a few. The regular mutants also sometimes like to come at you with a weapon, or they'll even throw knives at you from a distance if they're far away, so this is just like the older games in the series in that regard, which is excellent. Some of them, like the Fury, can even grab you, and you have to shake the Wii remote to punch them into submission. This is actually a remnant of a mechanic that was cut from the final game, but we'll get into this later. Speaking generally, Overkill also has a very, I guess, heavy feel to it. That's not to say that it's a flat-out slow-moving game, because it isn't, but things have a very weighty sense to them if that makes sense. It's one of those things that's hard to put into words, but I always noticed it, even as a kid. Before we move on, I'll also add that Overkill does away with the live system of the previous game. While you have 3 continues and you do get a game over if you run out of them in Director's Cut mode, the regular story mode lets you continue infinitely, although it does halve your score if you do so. When it comes to the development of Overkill, there is a lot to cover, so bear with me. Now, let's go all the way back to the beginning so we can begin from the very start of it all. If you remember the intro from approximately 7 years ago, then you'll recall me saying that Kuju developed Overkill, but to be more specific, Kuju's London-based subsidiary Headstrong Games were the ones who led the charge. After the Jet Set radio pitch was turned down, the team at Headstrong showed Sega that they were very passionate about the House of the Dead, so both parties agreed to develop a new title in the series. As for how the game got its Grindhouse aesthetic, when we started making the game, we were just doing another version of House of the Dead, similar sort of graphic style, slightly chunkified monsters. We did play around with different themes like steampunk, but Sega and Headstrong wanted to do something completely different, and over one weekend we all watched Planet Terror and thought, this is genius, we could totally do something with this. If you aren't aware, Planet Terror is one half of the 2007 double feature film Grindhouse, a collaboration between Quentin Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez. So Sega totally came up with a whole marketing plan based on the exploitation style, and the art team was like, yes, we would love to create it in this style. We went from there really, and it was just a really fun style to make. When the Americano thing came up, it led us to so much. Locations, type of characters we have in the game, what the bosses would be like, the kind of music, the swearing, all of that stuff just fell into place. Headstrong were lucky enough to have near full creative control on the project, with series creator Takashi Oda stepping in every now and then to give Sega's rules of the series, but overall Headstrong were pretty much free to do whatever they wanted with Overkill. Even though Overkill's style is completely balls to the wall, the developers desperately wanted to avoid the game being style over substance, so trying to nail the gameplay formula was a top priority. We made sure it was fun shooting zombies, worked out how fast they should move and what they should look like when they move around, and the types of zombies we wanted to do. We went to the arcades a lot and played House of the Dead 3 and 4 a lot. We pumped like 250 quid into the machine. Also, remember how I said before that Overkill was a departure from the other games because they were made by the Japanese? Headstrong thought that perhaps this game wouldn't translate very well both literally and stylistically in Japan, but Sega reassured them that things would work out in the end. Sega were really good. We were worried that culturally Japan wouldn't get what we were doing and think, oh god, what have you done to our baby? But Sega came back to us and said that they liked it, and they just wanted us to run with it. As for what Headstrong was worrying about the most, definitely the G thing. He's the main link, so that was more contentious. We were amazed when the box art went out and all the fans were talking about the game and were like, I can't believe G is on the box. Overkill also has many brand new characters that aren't in the previous games, and they came to life after the artist studied the appearances of certain celebrities. Agent G is based on Keanu Reeves in Point Break, Washington is based on rapper Common, Vala is model Nikki Blows, Papa Caesar is Burt Reynolds in Boogie Nights, and while there's no official confirmation, I've always had this sneaking suspicion in the back of my mind that Warden Darling was heavily based on Marilyn Manson's appearance. As for the game's brand new characters, Vala Guns arguably stands out the most. Vala changed quite a lot. I wanted her to be kind of a Kate Moss with a slight figure. I don't know what happened to her, but her boobs gradually grew. I wanted her to have that figure where you don't know if she's walking away or coming towards you. The other new character, Detective Isaac Washington, went through a radical design change during development. Originally, Washington sported a coat and a hat, but in the final game, the hat is nowhere to be seen, and his coat has been replaced by a yellow shirt. During my interview with his voice actor, Anthony Aroya, I asked how Anthony got involved with the project, and his answer was amazing.
Back in the day when I was using Craigslist as my dominant form of finding...
We're off to a good start.
Craigslist.
Nothing bad ever happened on Craigslist.
And found great work through Craigslist.
That's good. Yeah.
Never had a problem getting paid from a customer on time.
That's
or anything. Good. So it's like boom, 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 we're casting a video game.
Wait, on Craigslist?
To be honest, Craigslist. I don't even remember whether it...
Yeah, that's right. Overkill got its voice actors from Craigslist of all places. I also asked Anthony about how long it took to record all of the audio for the game, and again, the answer really surprised me. I know Overkill would have been developed from it came out in 2009, so I would assume that it started development sometime in 2007. So my question for you is, how long did it take to actually record the audio for the game? Like, all the voiceover work.
Memory serves correctly, 4 or 5 hours.
For the whole game?
4 or 5 hours. Yeah. Because what happened was, me and the guy that played Agent G,
Will Sierra.
We were nailing the scenes.
Oh.
And very rarely did the guys in the control booth go, now we need to do that over. It was very rare. They were like, damn, you guys got that on the first take. Okay, let's go to page 16, page 18. So that's what made it fly so fast.
Yeah.
It was longer than 5 hours. I don't think it was. It was about 5 hours.
Okay. Yeah. That's incredible, because the whole game is that long. The studio in charge of Overkill's audio, Pitstop Productions, were also in charge of handling its 70s-inspired retro soundtrack, and one of the best things about the game's music is how varied it is. From upbeat disco rhythms to heavy, aggressive guitar leads, there's a piece of music that expresses every emotion in Overkill. Another thing that I love about Overkill are the game's menus. From shooting a movie poster on the level select screen to having to twist the Wii remote in the audio settings to literally dial things up to 11, the game has a lot of personality in its menus. But these menus have actually been scaled way back from what was originally planned in terms of scope. Overkill's UI and menu designer Ben Stevens, on his page on his ArtStation website, documents early concept art and proposed UI and menu systems for the game that were scrapped. Luckily, there are unlisted YouTube videos on Ben's YouTube page that we can take a look at. As a side note, I actually reached out to Ben for the purpose of this video, although I never heard back from him. We can see early concept art of the ice cream truck, including some very, suggestive textures that I've had to censor. A soldier mutant who I assume would have made an appearance in the final level, what with it taking place in a top-secret military bunker, and there's also artwork of a scrapped boss character. I theorize that this was an early design of Brutus, although his green helmet and overall color scheme does give me a sort of military vibe, so I can't say for sure. I'm not sure why this guy was scrapped, but I assume it was due to either technical issues or maybe because the whole shoot the exposed heart thing had already been done in House of the Dead 2. Speaking of scrapped bosses, Nigel and Sebastian's original design was a lot scarier, with Sebastian being completely inside of Nigel's chest, save for his arm that protrudes out. The original plan for this boss fight was for Agent G and Washington to enter the big top in a first-person perspective, with a cutscene playing out of them being swarmed by mutants. Nigel and Sebastian would then appear, and then the boss fight would begin. But this scene was also removed from the final game. The game's HUD also went through some major changes. An earlier HUD here shows your weapon and grenade count in the bottom corner, and a really cool looking life bar on the sides of the screen. I assume that when the red bar representing your health fell down and reached the skull and bones, then it was game over. Another revision involves the weapons and grenades still being kept in roughly the same spots, but your score was at the top and your life bar drained from right to left. There's also another HUD design that's in Ben's video, but there's no static image of it, so I'm going to do my best to describe it even with this picture constantly scrolling. You have your life bar, score, and combo counter in the top left, with your ammo and grenades being in the bottom left. The combo counter works the same way as it does in the final game, although it looks completely different here, and the combo names themselves have also been changed. The only gameplay difference in this early build that I can tell is that when you would enter a Gorgasm, the game would activate what was known as Mofo Slow-Mo, an early name for Slow Mofo. It seems that at some point in development, the ability to enter slow motion was taken out of the combo system, and it was replaced by the slow motion items that you could shoot. Much like how the Fury grabs you in the final game, he could grab you in this early build, although the grapple bar looks completely different here. Also, there was a disc about the game given out to members of the press that contained early information about Overkill, and in these early screenshots, we can see Agent G bashing his handgun into the Fury's head, as well as another early HUD design. The lighting in this level is also completely different, making it look unfinished, which makes sense, this is an early build after all. We can also see this HUD acting in real time in what I believe is the game's announcement trailer. This video is dated as being from 2008 on my PC, so it's definitely an early build of the game here. Going back to the screenshot for a moment, I believe it's a leftover from a cut mechanic. According to an Overkill press release, get knee-deep in the dead with motion-sensitive Wii controls, shock a shotgun, and when the zombies get too close, pistol whip jaws off or cape some heads in with the stock of your pump action. I could be wrong about this, but I think that the original idea was for you to use your weapon to physically strike mutants if they were too close for comfort whenever you wanted, not just when the Fury grabbed you. Many years ago, a series of videos were uploaded to YouTube, and they're called The Making of the House of the Dead Overkill. These videos contain some really good information about the game, and they're all in glorious 480p. On the one hand, you don't want to offend the fans of the series who come to expect a certain tradition, but at the same time, you want to be able to take it onto the next stage. You want to say, okay, we're giving a fresh feel to this, a new look, a different experience that's going to update it and also attract new fans as well. Overkill also runs on Blitz Tech, a little known game engine that I honestly hadn't heard of before making this video. The developers wanted to make Overkill one of the best looking games on the Wii, and while there are a few scenes where the graphics can look a little bit weird, I think that overall they succeeded. Okay, now that we know a lot about Overkill's development, let's jump forward in time and take a look at what happened after the game came out.
You name it, we've got it. Faster pussycat kills two, delivers tons more than the opposition. Unladylike karate chops, ungentlemanly haymakers, spirited gymnastics.
Before we begin discussing Overkill's legacy, I'd like to let you know that we'll be discussing Overkill's reviews and sales first, and then moving on to everything that came after. When Overkill released in February 2009 for the Wii, reviews were mostly positive, thankfully. Most reviewers gave the game either a 7 or an 8 out of 10, although Nintendo Power gave it a 9. Overkill currently sits at a 79 on Metacritic, meaning that its average review score was a 7.9 out of 10, so not that bad. Edge magazine, known for being really harsh with its review scores, even stated that Overkill raised the bar for production value for third-party games releasing on the Wii. Even though some loved the game for its offensive humor, many others were turned away by it, with 1UP.com claiming that despite thinking the game was good, with its constant stream of expletives and toilet humor, it may turn just as many people away. Humor is obviously a matter of opinion, right? But what's a matter of fact are the game's technical issues. A common problem that reviewers had with Overkill concerns its frame rate, which can get really low, especially when lots of mutants are on screen at once. Even when playing Overkill on a Wii U system via backwards compatibility, which is how I recorded footage for this video, the game still chugs and slows down when there's lots of effects on screen at once, and this is most apparent in the harder levels later on in the game, like Jailhouse Judgment for example. It's also pretty common for the game to freeze for a second when trying to load in new assets, causing you to miss collecting an item during these loading times, which IGN points out in their review.
You know, the gameplay is balls out awesome and straightforward action, though you are going to notice some little annoying issues. You know, check out right here, you got frame pops every time the game overloads itself too much. So this happens when, you know, areas are loading during turning or when models are swapped out for limbless torsos, you know, after you hit them with like a huge shotgun blast. As an example of that, here you can see I actually shot at these grenade boxes, and I didn't pick it up because I happened to pull the trigger during a little bit of a load.
Another complaint that some reviewers had was that the game was just simply too easy. Previous games in the series were known for their really high, almost unfair difficulty levels at times, but Overkill's simplification of this difficulty was mixed in the court of public opinion. While I personally like how they toned things down a bit, some reviewers disagree with me on this topic. Overall, Overkill reviewed pretty well, much to the pleasure of Headstrong Games. We've just been getting the review scores in, and they've been mostly positive. We thought they'd be more polarizing than that. It would be Marmite, and something you got and found amusing, or something that offended you. You may have noticed by now, but Overkill is quite the vulgar and profane game, especially with its dialogue. As a result of this, the game received the Guinness World Record for most profane video game back in 2011, with writer Jonathan Burrows stating, "It is a dubious honor to receive such an accolade working in an industry where so often the fruits of your labors are derided and dismissed for being puerile or irresponsible. But in the case of the House of the Dead Overkill, a little puerility was the order of business." Parodying the profane excess of Grindhouse cinema was Headstrong Games' objective, and I am flattered that this record acknowledges that we not only rose to that challenge, but entirely exceeded it. As for the game's sales, it's obviously impossible to find the exact number of copies sold, but in a 2009 interview with Sega's then Vice President of Marketing, Sean Ratcliffe, House of the Dead Overkill sold quote-unquote very well, and the game met Sega's expectations. You may think that this is just marketing talk, but I honestly believe it to be true, what with how many times Overkill was re-released. On May 27, 2011, Sega released an official blog post that said, "When we released the House of the Dead Overkill for Wii, one of the most common things we heard is the wish that it be on a next-gen console. Your wishes have been heard and answered. That mutant massacring B-movie bloodfest, The House of the Dead Overkill, is coming to the PlayStation 3 with some great extras. The House of the Dead Overkill Extended Cut is presented for the first time in spectacular high definition with 3D support and PlayStation Move compatibility on the PlayStation 3. The House of the Dead Overkill Extended Cut was the Wii version, but better in every way almost. It's really hard to find information about this game's development specifically, but this version is what I grew up playing as a kid. Even though I had to play it using a standard PS3 controller without any motion controls, I still loved playing the game to bits, and it was always good fun to fire at some mutants. The game's new levels, Naked Terror and Creeping Flesh, divert away from Agent G in Washington and instead focus on Vala, a new character, Candy Striper. With brand new levels comes brand new cutscenes, and there are some really funny bits of dialogue that these two characters share.
Oh, Jasper, my special little chair bear. One day, we'll be free of this hellhole.
Fuck, kid! Didn't your mama teach you to knock?
Oh, Varla, I'm sorry. I thought I heard Jasper's car pulling up outside and couldn't wait to see him.
Well, you're not gonna be much good to him with no head on your fucking shoulders. Not that you'll be much good to him now anyway.
Well, what do you mean?
He's gone, sugar.
He's left me? How could he?
He didn't have much choice in the matter.
Oh no! My baby's been wheeled away by another woman?
No, girl. Jasper's taken that great stair lift in the sky.
That can't be. His only went up one floor.
His batteries are flat.
Oh, that silly Billy. I always told him to carry a spare.
He's fucking dead!
No!
Later in 2013, Sega pulled a wild card that no one would have ever seen coming, and they ported Overkill to iOS and Android. The House of the Dead Overkill, The Lost Reels, is a stripped-down version of the Wii game that I also played to death as a kid. From what I remember, there were multiple control schemes, and this game launched with only 2 levels, Papa's Palace of Pain and Ballistic Trauma, although Naked Terror and Jailhouse Judgment launched after as paid DLC via an in-app purchase, which I also bought. This game specifically is no longer on digital storefronts due to Sega pulling games down that now failed to meet their quality standards, and I really miss it, honestly. There's no way for me to play this game again, but if I ever get an Android phone in the future, you know that I'm definitely going to find a way to install this game somehow. Characters in this version also have different stat boosts, surprisingly. Agent G has less recoil, but Washington does more damage, and you can also take 2 weapons into a level. Also, the cutscenes in this game specifically are represented with comic book artwork and speech bubbles, and there's no dialogue. Each level is split up into certain parts, so when you reach the entrance hallway of Papa Caesar's plantation house, for example, the game pauses and it loads in the next area after it presents you with a menu. I also find it funny how the falling elevator bit has been removed in this version, and you just kind of walk back down the stairs again instead for some reason. I don't know why. I wish I knew why. I know that this version of the game, objectively, isn't that great, but I had so much fun playing it as a kid. If I wasn't at home to play Overkill on the PS3 or the Wii U, I'd play it on my iPad, and I just couldn't get enough of it. Also in 2013, Sega shadow dropped the Typing of the Dead Overkill on Steam. Following the gameplay formula of the original Typing of the Dead, you can use your keyboard to blast through mutants, and this means that Overkill has an official PC port. You can also switch back to regular Overkill mode to play with a mouse, or even a light gun if you can get one working on your PC. The 2 best parts about this version of the game is that, firstly, it can run on a potato PC, and secondly, it has online multiplayer. During the COVID lockdowns of 2020, I would play Typing of the Dead Overkill nearly every day to distract myself from the outside world, and it never failed to make me happy. Even though Overkill reviewed and sold well, I always wondered why Sega and Headstrong never attempted to make a sequel, and after finding a rumor from 2011 about such a game potentially happening, I decided to ask Anthony Aroya about it. This is a question I was pretty interested in asking, because there was a rumor going around a while ago, 2010, 2011, that they were going to do a sequel to Overkill, but it never came out. I think it was just a fake rumor. So, as far as you know, were there plans for a continuation, or...?
You know what? I think John and I spoke in 2013, if memory serves me correctly. And we talked about getting together to do either a sequel or something else. I can't actually remember which one it was, but I think it was another component to this, if I'm not mistaken. And it just never got off the deck, which in the entertainment business
happens.
That's normal.
Yeah. Man, it sucks that this game never ended up happening. Before we move on, I also asked Anthony about whether or not he was working on anything brand new, and much to my delight, he is, so take a peek.
On Indiegogo, I have my cartoon. It's called Who's Your Daddy? The Adventures of Mike and Spike. So I'm going to send you the link to that. And it's on Indiegogo, so anybody wants to go there, just type in Who's Your Daddy? Mike and Spike, and pop up. And somebody asked me, was I having a nervous breakdown when I created this cartoon? I said, no. It's an allegory for human life. This black sperm cell and this white sperm cell meet each other. And they both want to fertilize the same egg. The white one is a hick. He's a tattoo-wearing redneck. And he doesn't understand how him and the black sperm cell, he says, how can we be the same guys, you-know-whats?
Yeah.
You know? So it starts off with them. It starts off as a racial thing. But the cartoon as a whole, because I'm trying to make enough episodes to take it to a streaming service, or Hulu, or Netflix, or especially Adult Swim. That's what I'm aiming it for. Animation costs and all that, so I have the project on Indiegogo. So I'm going to send you the link. If you could send it to everybody you know who's interested enough to crowdsource it, that would be cool. But that's the one particular thing I'm working on right now.
If you're interested in potentially checking out the adventures of Mike and Spike on Indiegogo, I'll leave a link in the video description and in a pinned comment.
Guns, if you can hear me, I'd like you to know I think you're the most beautiful woman I've ever met.
Now that just ain't right.
I think if we've learned anything from today, it's that love ain't always right. Washington, I love you, man.
Oh, shut the fuck up.
Okay, not to get too sappy, but I still remember the very first time that I saw Overkill. I was 5 years old at my favorite game store that sadly doesn't exist anymore, and it had these big screens with trailers for the game, and after seeing this massive mutant on the cover and having the shit scared out of me, my life was changed. Even though I was obviously way too young to buy a copy back then, I was always obsessed with the game, and I couldn't stop watching footage about it online. I could quote every cutscene, I knew where all the collectibles were, and I knew about all the boss fight strategies from just watching things about it online without ever having played it. So personally, Overkill does mean a lot to me. Making a massive video like this about the game in detail is something I've wanted to do for forever now, and after speaking to Anthony about his experiences working on the game, I knew that now was the perfect time to do this. Whenever I'm having a bad day or I'm upset about something, I can always rely on Overkill's just frankly demented sense of humor to cheer me up, and even though I've played an ungodly amount of hours in it, the game just never gets old. We don't really get games like Overkill anymore, do we? Games that aren't afraid to offend or revolt the audience with shocking humor and subject matter, and for this game to do all of that on the Wii of all systems is an incredibly ballsy move from the developers. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, I'd like to thank you very much for sticking around. I hope you can get the chance to play this game someday if you haven't already, and I hope you had a lot of fun hearing me ramble on about my favorite game in the series. Going back to the game's developers for a moment, I'd like to end this video on a quote from the game's producer. I joined Headstrong about a year ago, and I went there to do House of the Dead with the team, who absolutely loved that game. You could see that they wanted to do something special. I had the best year of my career, it was just great fun making that game. We didn't want it to end.
So wonderfully clear when holding you near, the magic of you, my dreams have come true. Your beautiful mind, you said.